In our last episode, we built this fuel refinery and generator setup. And though it is complete on the outside, we still have plenty of space to expand this should we want to further down the line. I mean, we could double or even possibly triple this setup. But even with just these 6 generators, the great thing is it gives us the power capacity that we need in order to get onto today's project, which is to rebuild the starter factory. But if I start tearing all of this down now, we're going to have no resources in order to actually build it. So what we're going to have to do, and I think the best spot's going to be in this space here, is to start building the factory as we see fit. I think we're going to go for a modular approach so that we can make it easier to control, and then we bring various items in, smelt them, and then send them on to the next factory to produce something, and anything left over gets sent somewhere else to be produced. So we're going to, I think, just jump straight down here, and from here we're going to... I think we have a friend trapped under here. Yep, we'll just leave them. The first thing that we're going to do is start building a platform. Now this is going to be where our foundry is, our smelter for all of our iron. I think we're going to go with either this concrete or tarmac. The other thing, I have to make sure that we're above this particular line, because otherwise we're going to have a sand dune in the middle of our factory, which isn't going to look particularly good. So I'm going to play around and try and get the perfect height, and we'll be back in a moment. And so here we are. We have 4 sections of coated foundations which are going to be the factories. This large one's going to be specifically dedicated to smelters. Then we have this next one which will probably be for either rods or plates, and continuing on, this one will be for either rods or plates, and then this one for reinforced iron plates. Once we've built the reinforced iron plates, we'll be looking at other resources such as motors and modular frames, heavy modular frames. So we are going to need to bring more resources eventually, but let's get started with this. The first job for me is going to be building the walls, and I think what we'll probably do is, I don't know, maybe something like this. We'll have a glass front here, which is quite big. I like having like a corner window. This is going to show off the factory. Then we'll have the entrance over here, and we'll probably do something quite clever with that. And how are we going to get the resources in? Perhaps we can bring the resources through here, or if we make it central, which we could do, we'll bring the resources in and then disperse them between all the smelters, and then once the ingots have been produced, we can move them back along here, and this will be the way that all the resources move across to the next factory. I'm liking it. Let's keep on with it. So I've given it a little bit more thought, and then realized that if we're taking the resources back through onto this bus, then we're going to have no room for the output of resources. So the idea is that ingots will come through here, for example, and then once the iron plates are produced, they will be brought down to another bus underneath here, which will take everything to the storage area. So that's what I'm going to be working on for the other 2 sections, and I do want to very quickly talk about what it is that I've done here. So here we have a elevator. This is going to bring all the resources along a bus underneath here. But in order to add a bit more decoration, we have this metal pillar frame. And then behind that, we also have a blue sign. So we're going to have the signs slightly illuminated so that if you're walking past, you can see the light as the resources are heading down. Quite easy to do, quite simple. We can do it over here, for example. We're going to want to place down a conveyor hole just against the wall. Actually, we're not. I take that back. The first thing that we want to do is to place one of these. See, they're at the right height. Now we need to place that elevator hole, and then we can do these. And then the next thing is obviously to grab our elevator, stick that in there, then pop that along there. Obviously you need to color that, but that's the basic premise of what we're building. Do you mind? These beasts are so loud. Anyway, I'm going to now work on the bus underneath here, and I will show you what we've got afterwards. And here is the bus. I think we may actually have to just change these so that we have a small foundation above us so that we can have a bit more space. I know, it's a bit of a pain, but I'm liking how this looks. Also, I always like when you can see, I think we'll probably cover these up, these coated foundations. I think they work so well with the floor. What is that? Might have to change that. But you can see here, we're going to have the resources come out and along here, and they will head along to the storage area or to an awesome sink. So we want everything to be sunk just so that we're keeping everything running at 100% efficiency. And speaking about efficiency, we're going to be building the Smeltery. Now, I've put 3 inputs here. So we're going to do 3 floors of our highest bout, which at the moment I believe is the Mark IV. So that's, what, 480 resources? Am I right? Am I having like a brain? No, we're correct. Sweet. So we're going to have 4 lines of 480 iron ore coming through, and we're going to have the same amount leaving as ingots. So that's going to be 3 floors. So that's what, 1,440? Is that right? 480 times 3. 1,440, yes. So to start this off, I'm actually going to build a cavity wall. So we're going to grab this. And this is what's going to house all of our power. We'll run that to the front. And we're going to run this all the way back. That has caused a slight issue. So we're going to have to build that there. And we'll just replace that. And at this point, I'm going to place down some smelters. So with us needing 480 resources produced on each floor, we're going to need, I think is it 16 resources divided by 30? 16, so we're going to need 8 of these on each side. But whilst I place down all 16 of these and set them up, I want to talk to you about my music. Did you know that the music you're currently listening to is produced by our own channel? It's free music to use if you're a content creator. It's not copyrighted, so you can use it in your streams and also in your videos, and you're not going to get any flags or warnings from that. But if you don't create content, you can just listen to it while you're playing games and have it in the background. Do check the link below to our lo-fi music. So here we've just got our first 16 smelters here, and we're just going to connect them all with a splitter manifold. I'm actually going to use the smart splitter. I need to get some AI limiters. And here we have the first floor. Now, as you can see, we have 16 smelters. All of these are going to be producing iron ingots, and these are all run via manifold. But the interesting thing about this is that we're going to use a scaling solution using smart splitters. If we click on this smart splitter, you can see how we've set the left and the right lane to iron ore, and then the center one to overflow. Now what this does is it forces all of the iron ore to go to the first 2 smelters, both the one on the left and the right, before overflowing once these are full. So in order for the next set of smelters to turn on, we need to oversaturate the belts. I'll show you now. Here we have the first 2 smelters running at 100% clock speed. This is because they both consume 30 iron ore per minute. So that's a total of 60, and this is a Mark 1 belt. But if we up this to a Mark 2, you'll quickly see that the resources overflow, or at least should overflow once these 2 are full, into the next set of smelters. There we go. Now you'll notice that we now have 4 smelters running, but none of the resources are passing through along this factory line. This is because it's a scaling solution. If we were to change this to a Mark IV, you'll notice that suddenly, once the next 2 smelters are full, the resources are going to carry over to the next one, rather than like a normal manifold where you get the first splitter will divide by 50 between the first smelter and the line, and then the next one will split 50 down to 25, and then 25 will follow through, and so on. So what this does is it allows all of the power to remain at a constant. So rather than the buildings going on and off, you find that they just slowly turn on and slowly turn off, rather than you having lots of disjointed spikes in your power lines. Now at this point, I do need to do the other 2 floors to this, but we're also going to have the merging lines brought up along the top of the smelters. You can also see how we are using the cavity walls here. So all of the power is being brought across to this wall, and then on the other side you can see the rest of the cabling where it's all connected together, keeping it nice and clean. This is the second floor, and you can see quite clearly how we've managed the merging line on top. So all the resources are then brought to the next line, and the reason that we can do this is that the amount that we're producing is not going to exceed the throughput of the belt. We know that we're inputting 30 per smelter, and we're going to have 30 output on each smelter. So at this point, the max that's going to be on a line is 480 items. Also, I wanted to point out how much I love this window. I just love the V. So we're going to keep this nice and big. We'll probably add some lighting on the next floor, but we've still got a lot to do. The other thing that I need to think about is how we're getting the items up and down. We're going to have to somehow make it so that these 3 split between the 3 floors, always in the middle for the input of this smelting line. Another thing that I have done is the bus underneath it. So actually, let's get under that. I'm quite happy with how that looks as well. You may remember that we had those signs just poking out. Well, what we've done is extend them down so they have these nice long lines of signs, and then we've also bordered them with beams to make it look quite nice and clean. And then we have obviously the coated foundations, and the bits that were concrete are covered in walls. So I think it gives it a really clean look, and then all the resources are running across the front. So I'm really happy about this. These are all going to go to storage or to the awesome sink. I think I've already mentioned that, but it does give a really nice thematic look to this build. And though it's just the start, I'm very happy with how it's looking. But that's enough chatting about the build. I now need to get on and finish that smeltery. So, what do you think? I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. We're going to jump into that factory because there's plenty to show off. And here we are. First thing I want to show off is the kind of border that we've done along the bottom line. I'm really happy with the barrier and the beam, and also the little painted floor that we've got. You'll see this throughout. Also, if we run up, let's quickly show you the cavity wall room. There's a little bit of clipping of wires, but it's okay because it's in the cavity wall. That's exactly what it's for. If we jump over here, you can see that the walkways cover up all of the logistics. So another thing that I'm really happy with, despite lots of like wibbly wobbly curvy conveyor lines, we've actually managed to get them all to fit in quite nicely. And then the last thing really that I need to show you is on the very top floor, we have we have this walkway overlooking everything here, and we're going to be adding some lighting just along here. I think it's probably best to keep it in line with the actual walkway and run this to the end, and this is going to run across to the cavity wall. We change this to a double. Can we replace it? No. And then from here, connect that to there and get some power. You'll see it looks pretty good. Oh, I forgot that clapping turns lights off. Oh well, let's just turn that back on. I'm quite liking this. We could obviously decorate this more, but for this factory, I think it's going to be perfect as is. And on the outside, you can see that we've done a lovely line of signs just to give it that little crisp look to it. And that's something we're going to repeat with the rest of these factories in the coming Let's Plays. But if you want to see how these ones turn out, you're going to have to make sure to subscribe. But guys, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more tips and tricks for Satisfactory builds, make sure to check out this video now. We are going to leave it there. Special thanks does go to all of our amazing supporters, most notably our TotalXclipse patrons, Cerebral Tag, James Irwin, Firefless, as well as our Lunars, the Calamity, Dixie Chris, and Ben, and our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Papa Snoozy. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.